One more look at a commodity. This is soybeans. Commercial or heavy buyers here, heavy buyers over here. COT proxy index, heavy buyers here and here. Heavy buyers here, which the commercial index did not pick up, and it was a good place to be a buy. Commercials are not aggressively short here. COT proxy index says yes, that's a sell point, and it was. Commercials get bullish pretty early in the game. Proxy index just before the rally takes off. So, as I said, sometimes it's actually better than the actual COT report. But in any event, as you can see, it mimics pretty well what the commercials are doing. Well, with that in mind, if I've really been able to crack the code here of how the commercials buy, we should be able to do this to individual stocks. So let's take a look at a couple. Here's a stock, Annaly Mortgage. It's traditionally been a high yield stock. They've paid out a lot of money in dividends. So you would want to buy this for a dividend purpose when the commercials have been buying, or our stand-in proxy index. Again, there's no commercial report for individual stocks, but look what happens with my proxy index. When it gets high, that would suggest that if there were commercials in this marketplace, they would have been buyers of Annaly Mortgage at these price points. Pretty interesting, isn't it? And they would be sellers at Annaly Mortgage at these points. So we see that we have a pretty good representation of if there were commercials, what they would be doing. Here's a more traditional stock, one of the all-time great stocks, Philip Morris, now Altria company. Altria is, of course, tobacco, but Kraft Foods and everything else in the world. Strong, high dividend payer, a pretty consistent return for investors. So let's look and see when the commercials are buying it, if we think this stand-in index represents that. Look what happens when they become aggressive in the market. We're at market lows. Here's a good example of a picture-perfect trade in the stock. Good stock, fundamentally sound, higher than 6 months ago, about as high as a year ago, and the commercials are buyers. That's really bullish in the market, and Altria took off for a nice spin. Here's world-famous Walmart. Again, if you want to be a buyer of Walmart as a long-term player, you'd want to look for your buys when the proxy index is at these high levels, suggesting that the market is being accumulated by professionals in the marketplace. And when the commercials are selling or the proxy index is in the sell zone, you really don't want to add on to your position. If you're a long-term player of a good quality stock, Altria, Walmart, Hewlett-Packard, Alcoa Aluminum, hold off your buying until you're congruent with the commercials. If the commercials are buying or the proxy index is suggesting they're buying, then that's when you want to be buying. We can use this as a setup tool then to tell us that a stock is ready to be bought or a stock's ready to be sold. Next, we'll take a look at one of the world's most famous stocks, Microsoft. The green line, of course, is advisors. When they're all telling you to buy Microsoft, you probably don't want to buy Microsoft. And when none of them are telling you to buy Microsoft, you probably want to. The proxy index works like the commercials. So we would say when this line is high, the commercials have been buying, or the pseudo commercials in the stock market, and look where we are. Those have been good buy points in Microsoft. When the proxy index gets into a high reading, we're at buys, and when the COT proxy index is at low levels, look what happens. The market comes down. It's had some pretty good signals in Microsoft. I'll back it up. You can see some more. When the COT proxy index was at a low reading, the market's ready to decline. At high readings, we can believe that if there were commercials in the marketplace, they would have been buying Microsoft at these points. And of course, you could then back that up with the seasonal tendency of the stock. So it's a great combination if you want to just be a stock trader, to find these picture-perfect patterns in the marketplace where you have a seasonal tendency, you have the advisors, and now you have really a revolutionary tool, the COT proxy index, which is going to tell you that if we had commercials in the marketplace, when these guys were heavy on the long side or heavy on the short side. Now let me also tell you something about this COT proxy index. You're going to have to adjust its level for each stock. You'll find the highs and lows. It isn't exactly a fixed percentage. It's usually, I think in the proxy index about 70% is going to represent a buy point, and about below 30% is going to represent a sell point. But you can adjust it a little bit, play with it on your individual stocks to come up with the buy and sell zones. But you'll be able to see it in a snap once you put it on your chart. But it's been a great tool to suggest if there were professionals in the marketplace, as there are in the futures, this is when they'd be buying, this is when they would be selling, and then of course we can look for picture-perfect trades like Microsoft. The market's in a downtrend, right? Commercials are selling. Advisors are wildly bullish. Seasonal tendency to go down. Let's sell Microsoft short up here, and Microsoft goes from about $28 a share down to $21.50 a share. A picture-perfect trade in Microsoft. Picture-perfect trade in stocks. How cool. Here's a hot stock, hot as a cup of coffee. We're looking at Starbucks. Okay, we've got our basic setup. We know the seasonal tendency of Starbucks is to come down about June of every year, 1st of July, somewhere in that time period. That's a seasonal low and seasonal high in the market. Seasonal low in the market about the end of September and the first part of October. Now, if we look at the COT proxy index, that's the red line. Look what happens when the commercials become sellers of Starbucks. It comes down. When they become buyers of Starbucks, those are the low points in the marketplace. The commercials were accumulating Starbucks in here. The advisors were telling you to sell Starbucks, and of course away it went. Now, here's your picture-perfect trade, so listen up. Watch this one closely, okay, guys? Are we in an uptrend? Oh, gracious, yes, we are. We're higher than 6 months ago, 12 months ago, a year ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago. We are in an uptrend. I don't care how you measure it. Commercials are buying. Unusual for them to buy in an uptrend. Advisors are bearish. That makes us bullish. And we're at a seasonal low in Starbucks. It's no wonder Starbucks went from about $29 a share up to almost $40 a share. It did go to $40 a share. Now, once it got there, look what happens. The commercials become sellers in the marketplace in this area. So, we're probably going to run out of steam in the market. The market breaks down, and now we see that the commercials have moved in on the buy side of Starbucks. In early August 2006, they become buyers in the marketplace. Advisors are bearish, and we're approaching a seasonal low. This is the time to buy Starbucks, not back here when everybody got all hot latte about this stock earlier in the year as it broke to new highs. That wasn't the time to buy. The commercials were selling. Now the commercials are buying. This market's getting set up. Is it picture perfect, though, is the question. Well, are we higher than 6 months ago? No. Are we higher than a year ago? That would be last August. Last August is over here. Yeah, we're higher than a year ago. So we are in an uptrend, but we're not higher than 6 months ago. Yeah, it might have a trade in there. Is it picture perfect? Not ideally picture perfect, but it does bring up another interesting point. In a question like this, where we're like, well, we're in an uptrend, but we may not be picture perfect. If we have more commercial buying at this low than we did at the last low, that's a very good sign, and that's what's happening in Starbucks here. So there's more commercial interest coming into the market here than at the last low. That tends to be bullish in the market. We'll see, because I don't have a clue what's going to happen to Starbucks. I just got my indicators. Starbucks is getting set up for a rally.